I'm Shane Nyland, and my co host is Blake Musser. And these stories you're about to hear are from Weapons Company, 2nd Battalion, 4th Marines, 1st Marine Division, about the events surrounding and directly from the mouths of the people who were in Ramadi 2004. All right, man. Just tell everybody who you are.
Hey, I'm Curt Neill. I'm MOUT, Weapons Company, 2nd Battalion, 4th Marines, Ramadi, Iraq.
And if I remember, you were a sergeant when we went over to Ramadi. Is that right?
It was. Yes. That's a good way to lead off. How did I become a sergeant
Yeah.
so quickly?
That's good. You tell that one because I want to hear it.
I know. Well, that's a story, I'll tell you. It's I had this scenario. I was going to break it down and let you ponder and see if you could figure it out. But 2000. I reenlisted in 2001, 3 months prior to 9/11.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
Okay.
9/11 hit, and I thought, oh boy, here we go again. So I'm a corporal now. They pinned me corporal when I reenlisted. I'm driving home from Springfield, Massachusetts, the new MEP Center, and I'm proud as a peacock. I was like, here I am, I'm a Marine again. I had a smile the whole way home. I was just ecstatic about it. So I was just hemming and hawing to get to my unit, but I didn't have a unit yet. So I kept calling the recruiter every day. I said, you got a place for me? You got a place for me? Finally, they said, I was stayed home for like 3 months. They were paying me to stay home. I'm like dying. I'm like, I got to get out there somewhere. So he finally tells me, you're going to 2-4. I said, 2-4? Where the hell is that? It's on Pendleton. So we don't have no 2-4 on Pendleton. It's at San Mateo. He says, no, 5th Marines are at Mateo. Well, 2-4 is there. I'm like, what? I never heard of it. So I get to, 5th Marines used to be at Margarita over by the airfield. When I first enlisted, when I was with 5th 3-5. And we were over at Margarita, then went to Desert Storm. And then 7th Marines went to 29 Palms. And then the transition was when we cycled back from Desert Storm, we went to San Mateo. And so that's how and it's funny because my dad was with 7th Marines. So I was at Mateo in like 84 and 85 already. I already knew the place.
Huh.
Yeah, it was kind of weird how... I got another funny story about Gunny Lytle, but we'll share that another time. This ties in with that whole thing, but that's another whole thing.
Nice.
But as far as I got my corporal now, and I get to Pendleton, the place was a ghost town. There was nobody there. And guess where I was when I got out of the Marine Corps the first time? I was at Mateo with 5th Marines, 3-5. And I'm like, send me right back to the same place. And where do I get put in the barracks? The next door to the room I left 10 years before. Like, you gotta be kidding me. It's a sick joke or something. So a couple months go by. Now I'm with Echo Company then. I was with the weapons platoon, Echo Company. And so Super Bowl comes along, New England Patriots are in it. I get NJP driving back. So now I'm a Lance Corporal. So we go to Okinawa. I'm still a Lance Corporal. I'm like, now I'm depressed. I go to the first sergeant. Well, he calls me in. I was in the armory too with Echo Company. So that night or the morning after, First Sergeant Wilson calls me in. He said, I didn't expect, of all people in this company, you're the last person I expected to have this happen. I'm like, I know. So I said, well, maybe I made a bad decision. Maybe I shouldn't have came back in 10 years later. Maybe I kind of like a failure to adapt type of thing. He said, no, you stay in. I think you should stay in. I said, okay. So now we go to Okinawa. And of course, I'm still a Lance Corporal. And we get a new first sergeant. And like prior to going there, his first sergeant shows up at Mateo. It's First Sergeant Lee.
Yeah.
I come up from the armory from formation, and I hear him speaking to the company, and I'm like, man, that sounds familiar. I know that person. I hadn't seen him yet. And I said, I know that voice from somewhere. I get up and I'm in the back and I'm watching it. I see who it is. I'm like, this is getting too weird. It's my goddamn drill instructor. First Sergeant Lee. So he's in Okinawa with us.
Yeah.
So magically, all of a sudden, I get promoted to corporal. I'm like, I don't know how it happened, Gunny Lila, but they promoted me. That was that. That was that. So a year goes by. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me recount this here. Oh, yeah. Okay. A couple of years go by now. It's after we all got out. He was retired. I'm out for a couple of years. I'm back at Pendleton, of course, on vacation. And I'm down at the pier in San Clemente. There was a 2-4 memorial something down at that little memorial area. Colonel Kennedy was supposed to speak, but turned out he couldn't make it. Anyway, I'm down there. There's this big old fat guy with beard, a bunch of Harley guys, just all nasty looking. This guy looks at me straight in the face, points at me. Hey, I know you. Big fat nasty dude. And I said, I'm sorry, sir. I think you have me mistaken. He says, no, it's Lee. And I'm looking at him. I was like, Jonathan P. Lee? Said, yeah, I got you promoted, remember? To sergeant? And I'm like, I don't want to know how. I don't want to know how you did it. Because a year after I was a sergeant, First Sergeant Matt calls me out of the army. He says, I need to see you in the office. And I had no idea what's going on. I get up there as First Sergeant. What did you need from me? He says, First Sergeant Mac. Oh, Sergeant Neill, got an email from Headquarters Marine Corps about you. And I'm like, oh, what? Well, I didn't do nothing. They told me that you were never supposed to be promoted. And I said, what was I supposed to say? And First Sergeant says, what could I tell him? This Marine already has fit reps. I can't do nothing about it. So in the back of my head, I'm like, oh, man, First Sergeant Lee, you really got me in a pickle now.
Yeah.
So I don't know what he did or how he did it, but that's how I got to sergeant so fast after my NJP.
That's a
I
great
kept
one.
that one under wraps for a while because I kind of knew that he did it, but I didn't know how.
I remember it being fast because I remember turning weapons in with you in the armory and you were a lance corporal. And then it seemed like the next day you were a corporal and the next week you were a sergeant. I was like, oh shit. Well, you're climbing right back up the ladder. That's good, man.
Yeah, well, I got out as a corporal. I got corporal meritoriously in Okinawa, 1990.
Mm.
Back then, I was I was a whole different Marine back then. I was like gung-ho. Well, I still was, but I mean, you can talk to anybody, but they'd always call me Sergeant Major, Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps, Chesty Puller, Smedley Butler. I was going to be the next Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps in my time. That's what was my goal. I was a hard charger when I was a young lad.
Nice.
Well, Staff Sergeant Gould always had high regard for you.
Yeah, we were together when he was in 81s.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was in 81, and I said, hell no. When I got to SOI, they told me I was an 81. I said, fucking no way am I an 81. I'm like, I will lie, cheat, beg, steal. I will not be an 81. I'm telling you right now. I will do anything to get out of that. And I did. I said, I am not being 81. That's not why I joined the Marines. But that was my opinion anyway. But yeah, I knew Staff Sergeant Gould in his NJP days. Back in the day.
Have a little bit of paperwork on you, so.
Yeah. He was nothing. He and I didn't have the same clique of people, but we always. I mean, of course, we grew up to SOI and went to the fleet together and all that.
Sure.
I think, oh yeah, I gave his kid a couple bear claws one time. He thought that was the greatest thing.
Hmm.
Like real bear claws,
Yeah, yeah.
Sure.
And he thought I was like Grizzly Adams or something. But
So
yeah,
when did you come over to Weapons Company from Echo?
well, I was with Echo, and then it just proved to be after the NJP. Um, how did that work? Well, I'll tell you how it worked. I remember now. Before I went back in, I was training to be back in, running and working out and running, and I thought I was in pretty good shape. Well, I wasn't in good enough shape. I couldn't hang with those young boys. So, and then I think they saw it, and then they wanted me to kind of like have something a little bit easier to ease into, you know. So I don't remember exactly when, but it was not too long. I was only with Echo 4 months, maybe.
Okay.
Quizdak was with an Echo too. I was with him and a couple other guys. I was actually his team leader. They gave him to me because those guys in Echo were just bastards. They didn't want. Gwizzy was a kind of a problem child back then. But
Sure.
he turned into a good Marine though, towards the end.
I love Gwizzy, man. He was he I have several stories of him
Yeah.
over in Ramadi, and you could not get a more dependable Marine. I
No,
mean,
no, I agree. I agree. It
if
was
you
great to see him, grow up like that because when I was with him, he was scared shitless, and his sergeants were they handled him the wrong way, and he was afraid to do anything, and anything he did was always wrong anyway. So that's why they gave him to me, him and another kind of problem child. And so he kind of grew around. Tempered him a little bit and then like, hey, it's not too bad. Just calm down. Things will be all right. You're doing fine, blah, blah, blah. He didn't need somebody just screaming down his neck every move he made.
Right. I didn't know that you I didn't know you had that connection with Gwizdak. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. No. He's one of
Him
my
and,
favorite
there's another
Marines.
guy. Huh?
I said he's one of my favorite Marines. He was always I enjoyed him.
I liked seeing him grow up and see him, he turned into somebody. I love when he said that he would say, he'd see somebody doing something wrong and he would actually have the wherewithal to say, hey, you're going to say, pick that up off the ground or get off the grass type of thing. I think, bam, Gwizzy. Good job. But
Yeah, I know you were with us all of Okinawa, and I don't remember when you came out of the armory and joined MAP 2, but
that was when I trained Miner and Granger.
yeah,
And that transition happened right after Mount Town.
that was going to be my guess is right after
Yeah, right
Thanksgiving.
around that time frame.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. But
Were you trying to get out of the armory and over into
well,
one of
I
the
knew
map platoons?
where we were going. I had an idea what we were going to be doing, and I figured, well, I don't want to be in the armory.
Fair enough.
And of all the platoons, that's where I wanted to go. I didn't want to be in the 81s, I'll tell you. Yeah. I
Well,
mean,
it
that
sounded
was
like we were
so
more.
bad that people believed I was a 31 and like in the office and in the battalion office, so much so that if you open up my SRB, it says 0331.
See, I thought you were 31
I,
too.
I did too
would have
until right now.
I would have
Yep.
put money on
In
that
Desert
shit.
Storm and in Panama as well, I was always with the 50 cal platoon, always.
Okay.
I never went anywhere with the 81s platoon except for the first 3 or 4 months after SOI is as longest I was with the 81s platoon. Did a couple field offs with them, one CAX, and that was it. Then I went into the armory with 3-5.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the story that Staff Sergeant Gould, if I'm remembering correctly, indicated that uh, you got some during the Persian Gulf War, right? And you were
I was
on
one of the very few, actually.
yeah, that the way he tells the story is that you saved their asses, that section.
I won't go that far.
Well, he tells it that way.
I don't know. I don't know about that, but yeah, I don't know if he was in Panama with us either. He must have been. I can't remember. That was pretty dicey in Panama. That was strange brew down there. Because I was at 3-5 then. I don't know if you want to get into that, but
Sure.
It was just a kind of a neat story because I remember Al Gray, the commandant of the Marine Corps back then, came to Margarita where we were and told us we were going to Panama for jungle warfare training for 2 weeks, which we did. We went down there for 2 weeks. We didn't know what was going to happen a week later. That all morphed. There's a book about it by Wesley Clark, How to Fight Modern Warfare or something like that. He mentions what we did down there in a brief paragraph. Anyway, yeah, we were in full combat mode down there about a week and a half into it.
Really?
I went down an advanced party with the armory. I flew down on a C-130. I landed, then I floated up the Panama Canal on this rickety-tick boat, and I forget if we took a 5-ton or something to this Fort Sherman. Did our jungle training, and then a week and a half into it, the company commander came up to me. I was kind of in the cahoots with them. He says, "Hey, Knife, I need you to go come with us up to this meeting." It was up in the chow hall. I said, "Oh, okay." I get up there, and there's lieutenant colonels, Army, Marines. There's a general there, and it was a debriefing of we're going into Panama real time. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Now I'm 19 years old.
I was going to say, that's a scary meeting to be in.
He said, I need you there because you're going to have to help me do this thing because I was in charge of the whole battalion's armory and all the weapons and all that crap. So he needed to be in the loop. So that night there was 5-ton after 5-ton coming with ammo out the ass. AT-4s, laws, grenades, 6.762, 5.56, like, and they wouldn't believe it. I'm like, what in the hell is going on? I had we didn't know. So finally, he brought me to another meeting and said, we're going on patrol, live patrol. Here I am with my saw. I got an AT-4 on my back, more ammo than I can carry. We're looking, we were patrolling along an airfield, and they wanted us to see if, patrol to contact is what they wanted us to do, to see if we would draw any fire. More or less, we were decoys to see how they would react to any forces outside the wire. And it was raining, and it was like Vietnam. It's 2 steps up, 1 step back, mud. You're using your hands. So you get up and down. There's gullies up and down. It was insane. So here we are, fully loaded, no night vision, no compasses. Nobody had a clue where we were going. Didn't seem like, anyway. So it was interesting. And we came back. One guy, the day before, a guy fired a 50 cal round right down the middle of the street in the Panama. And a pucker factor was there. But nothing really happened. We never fired anything down there, but it was very intense down there, being a 19-year-old kid. And then we had everything and no idea what we were doing. So we actually rotated out of there about 4 days before they started dropping bombs. The stealth bombers started dropping bombs. I got home on leave, and I'm like, what the hell? It was just there. So years later, I read this book, and he told us, it says in it, we were there to make it look like, because we rotated out. You would think you get a whole battalion of Marines there right now. If you're going to do what you're going to do, they knew they were going to do this. Keep them there. But they rotated us out on purpose to make it look like nobody was staying. And things were, hunky-dory, same as usual.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's a pretty crazy story, man.
Different track on that one.
No, that's okay. That's a pretty crazy story. Actually, it's almost a good preview for what ended up happening later also. So,
Yeah.
All right. Well, you came out of the armory finally and joined us. And then I remember you doing March Air Force Base with us. And I remember you doing that little, we did that little like mini MOUT exercise in the backyard.
Yeah.
What else do you remember from the preparation phase before we finally flew over?
I have a hard time recalling much of that. I just remember being pissed doing the MOUT training because I was like, I knew that not real time stuff. That's not going to work. All the front sight post around the corner, like
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
And when you're huffing and puffing and running, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
But somebody had a hard time believing me. I told him it wouldn't work. And he said, well, the Marine Corps spent a lot of money on this. And I said, well, it doesn't work. I'm telling you that in real time, real life. And they weren't too happy about that. And I saw that person a couple of years later after we came back from Ramadi at the Marine Corps ball. And I brought that conversation up again. And I said, what do you think about that MOUT training now? And he didn't answer me.
That's funny.
That was just my opinion at the time.
Well, experience speaks volumes, that's for sure. And so,
Well, it was funny because I had a guy I ran into. I learned a lot about CQB before I actually knew it was even called CQB.
Mhm.
A Marine he was in Vietnam in Hue City.
Oh.
And he taught me a lot. He was a retired first sergeant. He was in 3-5 long before I was ever in, but he was kind of like well known, and he came back once in a while and visited and stuff. He would go out on field ops and show us stuff. He was kind of like a gunner almost,
That's
oh,
cool.
that's how he came because do you remember Gunner Galinas? One of the
I don't
most
think.
well-known gunners in the Marine Corps. Anyway, when I was in the first time, he was the gunner of 5th Marines. Then when I came back to 2-4, we did that MOUT training, and I had the ACOG, one of the only two in the whole company at the time. And guess who was teaching people how to use the ACOG was this Gunner Galinas I knew from 10 years before.
Okay.
He had already been
Cool.
in the Marines 20 years before that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're still here? And like, what the hell? I know you. And I'm like, yeah. What are you? You're Lance Corporal.
Yeah.
No. Well, I had to tell him that whole story. But anyway, he was a friend of his that used to come back. And he would tell me, I was kind of curious back then, I'd ask him questions, and it was just kind of cool. So that's how I got my initiation onto that. And then it kind of morphed with ODA. And then by the time I got with Blackwater, the instructors were asking me questions. I'm like, well, what do you think about that, Curtis? Do you think we should do it that way? Like, you're the instructor, bro.
Yeah.
But in my opinion,
Yeah.
well, yeah, we were going back to where we got back to map 2, and I don't even remember March, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I was trying to remember. I know we had a lot of the new guys. I don't recall if you were
with
with us.
There.
You might have still been doing stuff.
I could have been still, because I really was with the armory per se right up until we deployed.
Yep.
And actually, yeah, I was, because I was because I was Lieutenant Stevens gunner with the 240.
Yep.
On the way up.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, that's a perfect segue. I was going to ask you what I know. We flew to Kuwait. We had that whole debacle of our plane being a mess on the way over.
Yeah.
I remember I have pictures of you sitting right next to me in the hooches in Kuwait.
Oh.
And I did not remember who you rode up with. So you answered my question. You were
Yeah, that was kind of weird driving up there for me anyway, because I already did that once.
Yeah.
I'm like freaking deja vu, man.
Did it look
What's
the same?
interesting is because I wanted to mention this because some people ask me, what do you think the difference is between Desert Storm and the Ramadi, Iraq, and that type of stuff? Like, well, I'll tell you what's not different is I left Okinawa and went straight to the Middle East, and then I left Okinawa 10 years later and went straight to the Middle East. turn around, right off the bat, just like that. Because we were in Okinawa 90. As soon as we got back, we just spent an entire life in 29 Palms and then went to Kuwait.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was a whole different war, It was not the same scenario, a whole different outcome, a whole different purpose.
Yeah, very much so.
Well, and you guys didn't penetrate as that deeply into Iraq and the Persian Gulf War.
Didn't. No, 3-5 didn't. We drove from Saudi Arabia to Kuwait. We went as far as what's called Al Wafra Forest. And then we had to fire off some MICLICs and stuff like that to get through some minefields. And then we went a little bit further than that. Then pretty much the war ended, but there was a couple of things that happened in between. But there was a shitload of POWs and
Yeah.
just miles of trucks with POWs. And we went into the trenches. I walked a lot of trenches and just weapons after weapon after weapon. No food, no water, and machine guns out the ass, but no ammunition. We had some contact, little, but the biggest thing was that the biggest difference, I'll tell you, is the lead up to was the threat of gas attack,
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
because that was a pretty imminent threat. And to the landing, Schwarzkopf took the left hook, but if he had not done that, we were scheduled to hit the beach, and we had aerials up the beach, and that would have been ugly. And they were telling us that any machine gunners, life expect. I remember this to this day. Life expectancy like 90 seconds.
Yeah.
First wave, and I'm like, I'm on the third wave.
Yeah.
I already knew what wave I was going in. We were that close. Well, we get back to the nerve agent type of stuff, and of course we had to take the experimental bromide
Mm-hmm.
blue pills, and there was not a single person denying those babies.
Right.
Everybody, well, you had to take them because you had to sit in the gangway with your canteen, and somebody had to give it to you, and you had to put it in your mouth, and somebody had to watch you swallow it. And you wanted to take them, believe me.
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah. Then we did have a gas alert and we thought a gas attack, and I shit in my pants,
Mm-hmm.
straight to MOUT 4, and like in real time. I'm like, oh shit. Now you drive up all that miles, you know how Humvees are, shit's everywhere. Your gas mask is on you, but who knows where the hell my boots are? I don't know.
Right.
Shit's everywhere. Everybody's trying to find shit. We went to MOUT 4 for a while, and like finally they went all clear. That was a heart pumper, I'll tell you that. But on to 2-4. I keep going back to 3-5.
It's okay, man. It's fucking fascinating anyway. Yeah, man. What do you remember from the drive up with in 2004?
Well, it was kind of neat because I remember smelling the diesel, and I was like, I love this. I mean, I just could smell it. Reminded me of the last time I was in heaven, But I just remember leaving the line of departure and all that crap, and driving up, going underneath the overpasses, and there was a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
Once we got closer, and I just remember being in the turret, and Lieutenant Stevens was down below. He probably was pissed at me because I would be in the turret and I would rotate around to bring the gun around to face the bridge behind us.
Mm-hmm.
Every single bridge, because I knew, I knew kind of what to expect, or expected what to expect. So I was ready. But he probably got sick of that freaking turret running around every single bridge.
Yeah.
But I mean, it would have took just one time. I didn't. You never know.
Right. Yeah,
But
I
I
was surprised.
When we got up closer to Ramadi, then we got into Ramadi. I'm like, oh boy, I'm thinking close, in a city. I'm just thinking in my head scenarios, future. If we have to get into it in here, this is going to be ugly, and it was.
Mm-hmm.
I remember driving through. Of course, I don't think they expected us, the whole convoy, to come through like we did. The city itself. I mean, that was a pretty. To them, I'm sure it was pretty repugnant. Like, what kind of gall did we have to drive straight through like that?
Yeah, we did drive right through the middle of town, right through the market square, and in the middle of their market time.
Yeah, that was pretty. I mean, if they could have hit us right there, they would have done a good job, but everybody would have been dumbstruck.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at the first IED we hit with you, that IED, I mean, everybody was chicken and hens running around.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I had my night vision still in my pouch. Staff Sergeant Coleman got out, dropped his magazine out of his rifle, and the spring came out. All his rounds fall on him. He jams another one in. I'm trying to get my night vision on. I'm like, boy, this could have been real ugly.
Yeah,
we didn't. We had. I'll say we all were green to that scenario.
Very much so.
There's no sugarcoat in that one.
Yeah, you mentioning that particular one, that was March. it was just past midnight, March 18th at 0030 is when that hit.
Yeah.
And we were on our way to stage for a morning raid was the idea. And yeah, giant IED, wounded 3 people in my truck, including me.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I remember seeing your face. You were pretty stunned, dazed.
Well, I had been peppered with shrapnel too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think, oh boy, it could have been worse. Just think of it that way.
Very much so. Yeah.
Yeah. But as far as driving up there, I don't have nothing stands out to me. I
Mhm.
mean, no, nothing really ever stood out to me as far as, I'm going to mention this scenario.
Yeah. It's I remember long convoy and a lot of driving. Our convoy did not take any contact on the way up there. Somebody said they had heard some pop shots or something, and there was nothing big. We had those couple of refueling stops that we made.
Yeah. Yeah. I know something funny. I shouldn't tell you this. It kind of looks bad on me, but I forget where we were. We were quite a ways away from, well, we must have been getting close, but we stopped for a while. And I looked to my left and I'm like, what the hell is that? And we didn't have pack twos when I was in.
Yeah.
And so I see these I thought they were tracers at first, but it was people's pack twos. And I'm like, I think I just saw tracers. I'm like, oh shit. He says, that's pack two. Oh yeah, we didn't have those before. Well, I was like kind of rather embarrassed on that one. I forgot who I said that to somebody. I said, hey, I think I see tracers. And I said, oh, let me look. Those are pack twos. Oh shit.
Well, other than me getting blown up, what else do you remember those early missions? Anything from March?
The early ones?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I know if you jog my memory, I think of a bunch, but I think about it throughout the year and something will pop up and I remember this, I remember that.
Sure.
But
were you mostly in a gun? Like you drove up on a gun, but were you a dismount or were you?
I was always a dismount once we got into town.
Okay.
Yeah, in the shaggin' wagon.
Yep. Yeah, we
No
broke.
armor.
We broke
No
out.
armor.
We had high back initially with no armor, and even then it only had side plates.
Yeah. Yeah.
When we finally welded them on, same like
Yeah.
everybody else. Those stupid high backs.
I know we
And
had a baseball seat in the back for a seat, like a first base bag. I think that Matroka's seat there.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was good. I mean, at the time we hadn't experienced a lot of IEDs yet, so that truck was perfectly fine. We thought we didn't know any better.
Yeah.
God forbid that wouldn't have worked much longer without some help. The up armored Humvees and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, it was you. That was Harden was up in the front seat.
Yeah, me and Harden and what was the driver? I just thought of his name the other Grover.
Groves.
Groves, and Matroka, Miranda, Cohen.
And Cohen, yeah.
Yeah.
And you had Monroe as your gunner.
Yeah. We'll get to that, I imagine.
Yeah, other early missions, we made a couple of runs.
I'm trying to think. Well, there was one, I think. Well, there are so many, it's hard to nail them down, But we spent a lot of time coming up and down Nova at one time. We stopped doing that.
Yeah.
I think that was pre-April 6th, though. We did some stuff going up and down there.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of those early missions were IED sweeps, right? And we didn't really know any different, so we just drove as fast as possible.
I remember is coming back. Remember the night that Riegelsberger got hit?
I do. Yeah. That was
there.
That was a little later, but yeah.
Yeah. One of that stands out only because we were in that vehicle we were in. Of course, we're facing backwards and we're going, Randall's got everybody going everywhere.
Yep.
So, which was good. But we were facing backwards the whole time. So I had no idea where we were at when we stopped. I was clueless because, of course, it's nighttime. And I heard somebody on the radio. I mean, I really had no idea where we were at. And I heard somebody on the radio saying it was like say it was battalion or something. You might have heard it. Something they said there's like 50 guys heading your way with RPGs and machine guns coming from the soccer stadium area.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking we were somewhere near the stadium. We were nowhere near the stadium.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize that till later. So me being me, whenever we dismounted, I would always go the furthest away from the vehicles. I would go far as possible. So I would be the first person to see anybody. If somebody knew we were there, if anybody was going to try to flank us, I would be way out. So they couldn't, I would see them before they see us or come in to get us.
Uh-huh.
I had a bad habit of going way out. So I'm thinking, holy shit. I heard that. I wasn't that far at the time, but I kept going further. And here I am. All I got is of course, I had the ANPVS 17. It was night scope.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And I'm all by myself. I'm like, oh shit, maybe I should back up a little bit. Then I realized, man, we ain't even half as far away as I thought we were. We're kind of like closer to Snake Pit.
Yeah.
But I remember that. For some reason, that always sticks in my mind.
I think that one, now that you mention it, that was not Riegelsberger. That was the day that Holman Hurley got hit. It was just a little earlier. Yeah, because that was in the south. Riegelsberger got hit up on the north on Racetrack and Nova in the corner. And the place by Snake Pit was Holman Hurley.
Maybe it was. Maybe I'm wrong now.
Yeah.
For some reason, but he was a driver though, right?
He was. Holm was the driver that I think you're thinking of for that particular vehicle. Because that was the time
Dobbs was with him, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that was Rainmaker, and that was when the electrical lines got hit.
Yeah.
They were
that
down
was what
and
I'm
over.
speaking of then. I guess I always thought it was Riegelsberger.
Yeah. I mean, he did get hit later and was pretty seriously injured.
It was only 2 weeks later.
He went back to the States, right?
He did.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he had to go back. He got hit hard.
Yeah, I know. He was the first person I saw when I came back. I think, I came back advanced party as well for that one too, I think. Because no, that's not true. Yeah, did I? I can't remember how that worked, but I remember seeing him first when I got back.
Well, leading up to April, anything else stick out other than obviously?
Yeah, a lot of things.
Oh, go ahead. What do you got before April?
Well, no, like some of those April 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, I get confused. Even the 5th.
That's okay.
The whole week, I can't remember which. I'm not sure because you're not paying attention to that day. Like 15 years later, I'm gonna want to remember this day. It was the 6th, the 7th, or the 5th.
Right. Well, the first thing that kind of happened for us, obviously, was the night, April 3rd, when we went out, and Morris got wounded on the morning of the 4th.
Yeah.
We had the split platoon. Do you happen to remember that mission at all?
Well, we were up top.
We were up north, by the river.
Yeah. And then I remember we got a radio call. That's one of the nights I bugged. I was way out then too, and we got a call. We had to get back to the vehicles and go down.
Yeah.
And then I remember they had flat tires. I can remember Miranda or Lieutenant Stevens saying, we're going to have to tow the truck, and Miranda piping up and saying it's got to run flat so we can drive it back.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the same time. Yeah, it was the same time. Yeah.
So I just want to pick your brain at what you remember of that mission, just because I remember you, and I remember it being really amusing to me at the time. Right before, it was really funny right before Morris got hit, and then it got very unfunny. But we had gone up to do anti-mortar ops. That was the plan. So we were supposed to be up there scouting stuff. But for whatever reason, the building we ended up parking next to, and you may remember this, turned out to be like a meeting house. There was dozens of military-age males going into a house.
Yeah, right in front of us.
Right in front of you, sir.
Yeah, I had my scope on them.
You had crawled all the way across the field, and you were right next to where they were going into the building.
I know. I remember that. I didn't bother mentioning it because I didn't think you knew about that.
Of course, I watched you do it. Yeah. Yeah. And I remember calling to you over the radio, and I don't know what it looked like from your end. You were so far away, I could just barely see you in the scope. And I remember saying, are there any women and children in the house? And you just calling back with the most, like, I don't know, almost Rambo voice, like, no women, no children. And I still remember that to this day because it was so funny. And we were counting the number of men that were going in, and you were kind of like,
I had my eye on this one guy. He knew we were there.
Yeah.
He was watching. I can remember him in a white man dress.
Yeah.
And I just waiting for him to do. I just was like, do something wrong. That's all I need. Just do something wrong.
Yep.
And that'll be the last thing you do.
Yeah, I think they were nervous because they could see the trucks, but they definitely didn't know you were there.
Oh, they didn't know I was there.
Yeah, you were right
No.
there, right next to him.
Well, that's funny because I remember that, but I didn't realize anybody else did.
Of course. I remember a lot of things.
You're better than I am, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we got the call that Morris was hit. They were evacuating him to combat outpost, although we didn't find that out until we had got back to the trucks and we were just starting to roll. And we rolled out through the south end, kind of through the industrial district and then some houses and came up on combat outpost before they loaded Morris onto the helicopter.
Yeah, I remember.
Yep.
I remember poor Morris. There's a little sidetrack on him, but we were still in Kuwait. Yeah, we were in Kuwait. And I don't know if you knew me. I never slept. I sleep even to this day, I don't sleep.
Me and you had that in
Very
common.
little.
Yeah.
Very, very little. And so he was on fire watch one night. You might have heard this story. And then I guess, well, he told his dad. That's how it affected him, I guess. 'Cause I didn't know his dad knew about it, but so he fell asleep on duty, and I'm kind of a stickler about that because fire watches and in real time. We had a guy fall asleep in the Desert Storm one time, and it was no good for him. But so he fell asleep, and of course I'm awake and I see him, so I wake him up and say, "Hey, stay awake," and that was it. So a little bit goes by, and he falls asleep again. I said, "Morris, get up, do something. I don't care, push-ups, jumping jacks, whatever. Just get up. Don't fall asleep. Stay awake." That was that. And so whatever, his fire watch couldn't have been that long. Like maybe 4 hours, maybe.
Right.
If that time.
We usually were doing 2-hour posts, but yeah.
So I went back, and he was sound asleep this time. And I okay, I got to do something about this. And make a statement, make him do something he won't forget. So I took my K-bar and turned the blade around, of course, and put it on his neck. And pressed the back of his head against the knife, and picked him up. And he just, well, you can imagine how scared he was.
Yeah, yeah.
And I looked at him, I said, "Stay the fuck awake." So First Sergeant Matt caught wind, and he went and talked to him. I think he actually relieved him of his fire watch. But then his dad, I was texting his dad back and forth. It wasn't even about that. He said, "Aren't you the one that held a knife to his throat?" I said, "Oh yeah, that's me."
I mean, your call sign was knife for multiple reasons, for multiple knife stories, but for that.
Well, it's funny because really that whole nickname never evolved around a knife.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, nobody actually even knows how that started. There's only like 4 people that ever knew how that whole call sign started, and only 3 of them are alive. One passed away a couple of years ago. Nobody knows how that.
Care to indulge?
Didn't even know how it started.
I was just saying, do you want to share it? Because I don't. Now I'm intrigued.
I can tell you how it started, but I wasn't going to tell you exactly how it started.
Okay.
But I mean, back when I was with 3 Flight Corps, we didn't have name tapes back then either.
Yeah.
Okay.
And everybody knew me as Knife, the battalion commander, the sergeant major, the company commander. Just it wasn't Neil, it was Knife everywhere I went. I see Staff Sergeant Gould 10 years later when I checked in the weapons company. He sees me down the hallway at the end of the hall. Knife. I'm like, oh shit, who's that? Gould. Oh shit. That's weird. So yeah, so that whole knife thing started with a cross between Force Recon and the Armory. You can't ever put those two together, but that's where that came from.
Oh, that's
fair
funny.
enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. I don't want to tell you how, but
That's all right.
it's not a glamorous story. It's not a bad story either, but it sounds better than if you don't know.
All right.
Fair enough.
It sounds more intriguing, you know?
It does. I like it. A little air of mystery.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
I'm more amused the fact that that predated us. I thought that was
No,
I thought that was our time period.
What's
no,
that?
Your nickname.
I knew it had started prior to that,
Well,
but
no, I had that in Panama already. When I was 19, I had that.
yeah,
Yeah.
I knew it had started before that because we were already calling him Knife. And the story that happened about a knife and knife in 2-4 was when Matroka was a boot. He was sitting there bouncing the damn basketball against his door.
Uh-huh.
He comes out, stop bouncing that fucking basketball, and then just shuts the door. And like we're like, okay. And of course, Matroka, naturally high energy human being, he starts bouncing it again. He comes out, grabs the ball with one hand and a knife in the other, and pops the ball and drops it right there. And I was like, oh my God.
Were you there for that?
Yes. Yeah,
Because
absolutely. That was great.
If I recall correctly, he was in the rec room.
Yeah.
And he was bouncing the wall against the wall.
Oh, it was the wall. I thought it was your
The
door,
wall.
but I guess it was the
My
wall.
room was directly, and my rack was right against that wall.
That's what it was. Okay.
So I came out, I said, stop bouncing the ball against the wall. And so he didn't stop. But you know who was in there? Hodges saw that too. He loved it. So I came back in, I had my knife with me, and I just grabbed the ball and stabbed it, and then I punted it across the yard there.
Yeah.
And you know how Matroka, he was like dumbfounded.
Yeah. Yeah. Jaw hanging open. It was great.
Yeah.
All right.
You know what? I think he defriended me on Facebook because I always give him shit about something like that. But I don't. You know why he defriended me? I think because you remember when the guys from, was it Fox? The guys that went down in the water.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we were on the other side of the river when we could do our search for them.
Yes, I do recall.
Yeah. Me, Matroka, Miranda. We had that other side of the river. I don't know if you guys did too or no.
I did. I was with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
On the north side of the river.
Yeah. So, you know how he is. He loses his attention span. And I was serious about looking. You know, if you're in the water, you hope somebody on the other side looking for you.
Yeah.
So we got halfway down, and nobody was paying attention. I said, listen, pay the fuck attention. If you were in there, don't you hope somebody was looking for you? Not just looking at the ground, you know, kicking the can down the road. You know, I was pissed. And so that was that. And then I tell you, I still laugh about this. I could be in my bed any given night, and I still laugh about it. We're coming back, and there's this water cistern. Of course, the water is low because they stopped the dam.
Mm-hmm.
So they couldn't, all the intakes for the irrigation, they couldn't take any water in. So there was this water cistern. It was all mud. And Matroka's going to go over there and wash his boots in the cistern. I said, don't go over there. Don't go over there. You're going to sink in. I said, don't. He's going closer. I said, don't do it. I'm telling you. You're going to go in. Of course, you know what he did. Down he goes up to his knees. And he's got his rifle in his hand. And he's like, you ever see that Rocky movie when, what's his name? Oh, shit. They're in Russia and the guy can't get out of the snow.
Oh, yeah.
He couldn't get out of the mud. He was like stuck. Yeah. He was stuck in there, and I'm freaking laughing my ass off. I shouldn't be because of the situation, but it was the funniest thing. So he's handing me his rifle to pull him out, and I was just damn near on my belly laughing. So I haven't laughed that hard forever. and to this day, I still think of it. I still see him, and I still laugh. So I bugged him about that. This is years ago, and I'm pretty sure he defriended me.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Well, backing up just a touch, after everything happened with Morris, it basically started well, you didn't sleep much and neither did I, but for everybody else, it was probably a little bit harder. It's about 4 days of no sleep, pretty close. We didn't have very many breaks. The day after Morris got killed, we went back to that industrial district and we kind of searched around for other evidence of any insurgent activity. Didn't find much, got a lot of mean looks. And then the morning of the 6th kicked off everything else.
Yeah.
And tell me what you remember of us going back.
Well, let's see. We were on Nova at one point.
Yep.
Went back there where that big to-do happened with the truck. If I'm thinking that would be the same day, right?
Yes.
And of course, I went on my own merry way closer into town. And I remember, of course, this is the beginning of the day, more or less. Or I can't remember the exact time, but I found a blood trail. And back home, I always track the animals if they're dying or if they're doing their meandering through the woods. I track them and I like to follow, see what they're doing. It was kind of my thing back home. I like to track animals type of scenario. So, of course, I find this blood trail with AK rounds along with it, and it just keeps going out of the palm groves,
Yeah.
in that area anyway. So I keep following the blood trail. I'm all by myself now. And the blood trail is getting thicker and thicker and thicker, and the AK rounds are still going behind him. So he was still shooting. So I get into the open, and I'm like, oh, this is not good. I'm by myself, and I'm in a wide open little, I'm not going to call it a courtyard, maybe. There was houses in front, houses to the right, and I think one house to the left. Well, I followed the blood trail all the way up to the house, it's steps, and it went into the house. And that's where I stopped and went back. I think I had ICOM with me.
Yeah.
And then I got a hold of somebody, and the company commander, he came. I told him what I found. So they came over. It was him, myself, I think Lieutenant Stevens, and I know there was a couple of other people. So we went into the house, knocked actually, if I remember right, and went in. It was full of women, all women in there, just screaming to beat the band, their chant. So I looked down, and I said, "Oh shit, look at that!" Well, they had this big. Do you remember this? There was a big long carpet. Well, they rolled this carpet up in a big, if you buy a carpet, it's rolled up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a big carpet, long. Well, at the end of the carpet, 2 feet were hanging out in the middle. They rolled the body up in the carpet, but left the feet hanging out the end.
No, I don't remember this one. I think I was still out on the street with the trucks.
Yeah. So Captain Wheeler saw that, and he called battalion. And this was one of the very first MIAs or KIAs, enemy-wise, that we found or seen.
Yeah.
If anybody had been killed, they were already shot, and our 2-4 guys had already demout away.
Yeah.
But it was like the first actual one that they've seen or found, or I found, I should say. So they got battalion on the line, and they said, "Take him with you. You want to unroll him, and they want to search his body for information and blah 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 blah." Okay, well, we started unrolling the carpet, and the place went ballistic apeshit with the women screaming because they knew we were going to take him. I mean, it was mayhem in there, just. And so they just decided otherwise, is just leave him here. They want to bury him the proper way, the proper time.
Yeah.
So we ended up leaving him there. It turns out what this guy was, we did find out. He was the cameraman that filmed the whole thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So he was the cameraman that they had there. I don't think we ever found a camera though, but he was hit in the head with a bullet. But he had a wherewithal enough in him to get to that house. But I thought that was kind of neat. They had followed that bastard the whole way to his house, but probably I should have took somebody with me. But
Yeah. Yeah.
If you like what you've heard, this is a multi-part episode. Make sure you listen to the rest of the story.